Pre-Algebra Lesson 7-1, Solving Two-Step Equations. Up to this point, almost every type of equation we have encountered has been a one-step equation. You do one step to solve the equation. You either multiply, you divide, you add, or you subtract. Today, we're going to look at two-step equations, which are equations that require more than one step, normally two or more steps. When you solve a two-step equation, you must undo the order of operations, because you solve something by doing the order of operations and following the order of operations. To solve for a specified variable, you undo that process, which means you first must undo any addition or subtraction, then you must undo any multiplication or division. If you do them in reverse order, you will come up with lots of ugly fractions and decimals, which you're not going to want. So be sure that the first thing you get rid of is addition or subtraction, and the second thing you get rid of is multiplication or division. So let's look at a couple of problems here. We're going to solve, and of course, we need to show all the steps as I've outlined, because as the problems get more difficult, it'll be very imperative that you show the steps like I have done so that you will be successful. This first question says 5v minus 12 equals 8. So the first thing we need to do is we need to recognize that v was multiplied by 5 and also 12 was subtracted from it. According to what we're supposed to follow, we have to undo addition or subtraction first. So remembering that our equation is divided by the equal sign, we'll deal with moving everything off of the left side of the equation that is not with the variable. So the first thing I will get rid of is I need to get rid of the minus 12. The opposite of subtracting 12 is adding 12. So we'll add 12 to both sides of the equation. I now have 5v equals 20. Now if we look at our equation, v was multiplied by 5. To get v all by itself, we must undo that multiplication. So we will divide the left-hand side of the equation by 5. And whatever you do to one side of the equation, you must do exactly the same thing to the other side of the equation. So we'll divide 20 by 5, and v will equal 4. We can check our equation to make sure it is right, which is highly recommended. So we'll put in a 4 every time we see a v. And we'll see if we make a true equation. So we have 20 minus 12, does that equal 8? And yes, it does. 8 equals 8. That does indeed check. So you can check every one of your equations to make sure that you are getting the correct answer. But you need to show the steps as outlined here. And show them vertically versus horizontally. Horizontally is really, really ugly once you get past one-step equations. Let's look at equation number 2. 15x plus 3 equals 48. So x was multiplied by 15 and 3 was added to it. So the first thing we must get rid of is we must undo the addition of 3 by undoing that. So we will subtract 3 from the left side and subtract 3 from the right side. Whatever you do to one side of the equation, you do the exact same thing to the other side. Positive 3, negative 3 cancel out. 48 minus 3 is 45. So we now have 15x equals 45. To solve for this, we will divide by 15. And x will equal 3 because 45 divided by 15 is 3. And that's our solution to our equation. Problem number 3, we have t divided by 4 minus 10 equals negative 6. So the t has been divided by 4 and 10 has also been subtracted from it, so we must undo both of those processes. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add 10 to both sides of the equation. Pay attention to your negative signs, as they can get really, really ugly if you forget things. Negative 10 and positive 10 canceling out leave us t divided by 4. And that's going to equal negative 6 plus 10 is positive 4. Now, to undo division, we multiply. So we're going to take and multiply both sides of the equation by 4, or 4 over 1. It's the exact same thing. A whole number. A fraction is made into a whole number. A whole number is made into a fraction by just putting it over 1. Here we'll notice that the t's will cancel out, leaving me with t. And 4 times 4 is 16. Two-step equations are not complicated. Undo addition or subtraction first. Undo multiplication or division second. Let's solve a few more. Very important. The more we practice, the better we'll get. And we need to start paying attention to where those negative signs are and all those other things. Number 4, b divided by 3 plus 13 equals 11. So we need to get rid of the 13 first. So I will subtract 13 from both sides. These will cancel out, leaving me b divided by 3 equals 11 minus 13 is the same thing as saying 11 plus negative 13, which is negative 2. To get rid of the b divided by 3, undoing division is multiplication, so we'll multiply by 3. Multiply this side by 3. These 3's cancel out on the left-hand side, leaving me b equals negative 6. Just be very careful not to lose your negative signs. Now in equation 5 here, people make the really bad mistake of seeing this equation, 7 minus 3b equals 1, and they automatically think that they should add 7 because they see a subtraction sign. The subtraction sign is not in front of the 7. The 7 is positive, so to undo the 7, we must subtract the 7. I have to subtract 7 here, because if I added 7, I would end up with 14 on the left-hand side instead of 0. These will cancel out. I still have a negative 3b equals negative 6. Really carefully, don't lose that negative sign that's in front of your 3b. Sign goes with number. A sign is immediately in front of the number that it is that's making it negative. So I want to solve for positive b, not negative b. So instead of dividing by 3, I will divide by negative 3, so I will end up with a positive b. These two things will cancel out because negative 3 divided by negative 3 is positive 1, leaving me with positive b. Negative 6 divided by negative 3 is positive 2. Be very careful of your positive and negative signs. Number 6 at first glance doesn't look like it's a two-step equation, but it truly is. We have negative a plus 6 equals 8. So we need to get rid of anything that was added or subtracted to a, so we'll subtract the 6 because it was added to a. Positive 6 and negative 6 cancels out. I have negative a equals positive 2. But I don't want to know what negative a is because negative a literally means the opposite of a. I don't want to know what the opposite of a is. I want to know what a is. So I will divide this side by negative 1. If I do something to one side of the equation, I must do the exact same thing to the other side of the equation. Remember, negative divided by a negative is a positive, and negative a is the same thing as saying negative 1a. They mean exactly the same thing. So these two will cancel out, and I will have a positive a equals a negative 2. Now you can set up and solve real-world problems using two-step equations as well. You borrow $350 to buy a bicycle. You agree to pay $100 the first week and then $25 each week until the balance is paid off. How many weeks will it take me to pay for the bicycle? The first thing we do in any equation is set up our variable, and our variable is 99% of the time based upon what question they're asking us. So if we look at the question, it says, how many weeks will it take me to pay off the bicycle? So that's going to be my variable. I'm going to let W equal the number of weeks. So W is going to equal the number of weeks. I borrow $350 from somebody. I know that the cost of my bike is going to equal the amount of the first week plus the amount each week times the number of weeks. Okay? It's going to be the amount paid week 1 plus the amount paid on all the other weeks, every week after week 1. The amount paid each week multiplied by the number of weeks that I have to pay it off. So the total cost of my bike is the amount paid for the first week plus the amount paid each week times the number of weeks I have to pay that. So I need to set up my equation based upon that. The cost of my bike, if you look back at your problem, was $350. So the cost of my bike, that goes to $350. And then the amount I paid the first week, well, right here it says I paid $100 the first week, so that's going to be $100 plus the amount I pay each week times the number of weeks. I'm going to pay $25 each week until the bike is paid off. So that's going to be 25 times the number of weeks. I don't know how many weeks is that going to be before I pay it off. So my equation is 350 equals 100 plus 25W. To solve my equation, I will subtract 100 will get 250 equals 25W divided by 25, and W will equal 10. So it will take me 10 weeks to pay off the bike. Make sure you write all of your word problems in a complete sentence, and make sure you have the equation. So in your homework, I'm going to be looking for the following things. I'm going to be looking for you to define your variable, write your equation, and write your answer in a complete sentence. And obviously, I'll also be looking for your work. But those will be the three things I'm going to key off of. Making sure you've defined your variable, making sure you've written your two-step equation, solved your two-step equation, and then written your answer in a complete sentence. So as you can see, two-step equations are not all that complicated.